Ever tried sleeping in a tin can while paranoid about castle thieves and listening to drunk jesters at 3 a.m? Welcome to the medieval knight's bedtime routine. Spoiler alert, it's a total mess of uncomfortable armor, hay mattresses, and weird sleep potions. Let's talk about medieval armor. Imagine trying to catch some Z's while wearing what's basically a human soup can. Knights had to sleep in their armor way more often than you'd think. These metal pajamas weighed up to 50 pounds. The worst part? If you got an itch, good luck scratching it through all that steel. And don't even get me started on bathroom breaks. Plus, the armor would get super hot and sweaty inside, kind of like wearing a portable sauna, minus the spa vibes. Some knights actually developed nasty rashes and skin problems from sleeping in their gear. But hey, at least they were safe from midnight assassins, if they could fall asleep at all. Think your lumpy mattress is bad? Medieval knights had it way worse. Their idea of luxury sleeping was a giant sack stuffed with straw, which basically turned into a 5-star hotel for fleas and bedbugs. These mattresses would get moldy when wet, and trust me, in drafty castles everything got wet. The fancy knights might score a feather mattress, but those weren't much better. Imagine sleeping on a bunch of old musty bird feathers that clumped together like wet newspaper. And here's the kicker, they'd keep these mattresses for years, sometimes decades. The stuffing would break down, creating lovely little valleys of despair that'd have your back crying for mercy. Ever wondered why medieval art shows people sleeping sitting up? Now you know. Staying awake during night watch was a real pain, so medieval knights got creative with their energy drinks. They'd chew on weird herbs like pennyroyal and drink some seriously sketchy potions. One popular brew mixed wine with pepper and wild herbs. Medieval 5-hour energy, if you will. Some knights swore by something called wake wine, which was basically wine spiked with whatever stimulating plants they could find. The really desperate ones would even try eating raw garlic or rubbing stinging nettles on their faces to stay alert. And you thought your coffee addiction was bad. These DIY energy drinks were super hit or miss though. Sometimes they'd keep you wide awake. Other times they'd give you hallucinations of dancing dragons. Talk about workplace hazards. Let's talk about medieval air conditioning. And by that, I mean having absolutely none. Those gorgeous stone castle walls? They're basically giant freezers. Imagine trying to sleep while your room feels like a walk-in cooler. Knights would wrap themselves in layers of furs and blankets, but the cold would still creep in through every crack and crevice. The windows were just holes in the walls with wooden shutters that never quite closed properly. Some clever knights would hang tapestries on the walls as medieval insulation, but that's like trying to warm up Antarctica with a beach towel. The real kicker, those fancy stone walls would collect condensation and literally weep water, turning bedrooms into damp caves. It's like camping in your freezer, but with more rats and less ice cream. Being a medieval knight wasn't just about looking cool in armor. It was about constant paranoia. These guys had to sleep knowing that literally everyone and their cousin might try to steal their castle. You'd have rival lords plotting takeovers, peasants who might get rebellious, and sometimes even your own family members scheming against you. Knights would set up elaborate security systems, everything from guard dogs to tripwires with bells. Some even slept with their swords under their pillows, which probably explains all those medieval chiropractors. And don't forget about the classic murder holes, those fun little gaps in the ceiling where you could dump boiling oil on uninvited guests. Talk about extreme home security. Knights would also regularly switch up their sleeping spots to avoid becoming an easy target. Paranoid much? Well, when your bedroom might become a battlefield at 2 a.m, you'd be jumpy too. When medieval knights couldn't sleep, their cures were wild enough to make modern sleeping pills look like candy. Doctors would prescribe things like drinking warm horse urine, yes, really, or wearing necklaces made of dead mice. Apparently that was a thing. Some knights rubbed dormouse fat on their feet, believing it would knock them out cold. The really fancy ones might try sleeping with a special rock under their pillow, usually amethyst or moonstone. My personal favorite? The sleep sandwich. 2 pieces of bread with a squished spider in between. They claimed it cured insomnia, but I'm pretty sure it just made people too grossed out to remember they couldn't sleep. Think your noisy neighbors are bad? Medieval knights had to deal with a whole castle's worth of chaos. The day kicked off at dawn with roosters having screaming competitions, followed by blacksmiths playing heavy metal, literally, with their hammers and anvils. But the real party animals were the jesters. These medieval comedians would stumble around at all hours, practicing their jokes and juggling acts, usually after drinking enough mead to float a small boat. The castle walls actually made everything echo like a medieval amphitheatre. Add in the constant clanking of guards doing their rounds, horses neighing in the stables, and servants rushing around with squeaky cartwheels, and you've got yourself a 24/7 medieval music festival. No wonder knights were always so grumpy. Now, sleeping during military campaigns? That's when things got really wild. Knights would dig little personal trenches in the ground, medieval memory foam, if you will. They'd line these dirt naps with their cloaks and basically become human burritos. Some clever knights figured out how to sleep on horseback using a special tied-up position called sleeping at the reins. It looked ridiculous, but hey, it worked. The really fancy armies carried portable beds, basically hammocks tied between spears. But the weirdest part? Knights developed a technique called half-sleep, where they'd rest one half of their body at a time. Yeah, medieval knights basically invented power napping, except way more uncomfortable and with 100% more chainmail involved. You'd think having a fancy bed would be awesome, right? Wrong. The fancier your medieval bed, the more it tried to kill you. These status symbol sleeping spots were massive wooden monsters, often raised so high you needed a ladder to climb in. The super fancy ones had these heavy canopies that loved to collapse on sleeping nights. Nothing says good morning like 100 pounds of carved oak trying to squash you. The silk sheets, freezing cold in winter. Those prestigious feather mattresses. They'd trap moisture and turn into moldy swamps. And let's talk about those bed curtains. They were perfect hiding spots for assassins. The higher your rank, the more elaborate and dangerous your bed became. It's like medieval kings were competing in some weird who can survive their own furniture contest. You think your midnight cheese cravings are weird? Medieval knights took late-night snacking to a whole new level. They'd munch on something called night cheese. Specially aged cheese they believed would bring good dreams. But that's not even the strangest part. Knights would eat roasted lettuce, yes, hot lettuce, because they thought it had magical sleep powers. Some swore by drinking warm almond milk mixed with honey and nutmeg, which honestly doesn't sound half bad. The real kicker? They'd eat something called sleep bread, dark rye bread soaked in wine and sprinkled with poppy seeds. And for the brave ones, there was the infamous dormouse confection, literally sugared dormice. These guys really took you are what you eat to a whole new level. Thanks for joining me on this wild ride through medieval bedtime drama. If you enjoyed learning about knights trying to catch Z's in tin cans, smash that like button and subscribe for more historical chaos. Share with your friends who complain about their mattress.